Hey y'all, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be working on putting this dust shoe on the NEMA Labs NBX 5040. It goes on here something like this, I think. And this is really an interesting concept here. This mounts on to this part here. I guess the Z-axis carriage or whatever you want to call that. But the dust shoe doesn't go up and down. It's not mounted to the spindle or the router. It stays stationary, and then this router will go up and down inside it. So this always stays down against your material. And of course, these are slotted, and there's enough holes on here you can adjust that up or down a little bit depending on what thickness material you're running. But I have never used anything like this at all. I've always did kind of a DIY dust shoe, just mounting a part to the router, a top piece, and then a bottom piece with those really soft brushes that I get from McMaster-Carr. And they just kind of float right over the knobs on your clamps and things like that. And so I've never tried anything like this where it stays stationary. So this is going to be interesting. So we've also got a little piece here that goes up on top here to hold the hose. And my hose fit in here, but it was a little bit loose. So I made this this little adapter that will go in, and then the hose will go in there. So anyway, let's get this thing mounted and see how it works. I'm putting the 4 screws in kind of loosely. I'm getting it about the right height, or at least I think the height that I need, and just putting in those 4 screws loosely. And then I'm going to go to the controller and kind of, you can see it almost bent it down. So you got to make sure you get that lined up. So once I see that the router's sliding down in there, I use that to kind of guide it to keep it straight, and then tighten them. And then I test it again, go up and down a few times to make sure the router is going to go through there without bending that down. Then I finish putting in the 4 screws into that stepper motor that hold the hose bracket. Okay, I've got this thing all installed now, and I want to point out a few things. If you refer back to the earlier clip, I had this setting too high, and I still wanted to see if it was going to hit this clamp when I homed it. So when I hit home, fortunately, just the way this was in just the right position where the x-axis got over here past this and then came down this way and went very close. I had my hand on the e-stop ready to stop it because it was very close. Well, then after it homed, I jogged it over and moved it over side by side, and you'll see here in this picture that I'm going to put up now how it's very close. And this is even when I had it too high, because once I put this material on here, I'm thinking, well, I can't run it that high because the dust collection's not going to work well. It needs to be with these brushes nearly touching this material. So after I did that, then I moved it over next to the clamp again and took another picture. And you can see that, you got to remember, this doesn't move up and down. It stays stationary. So if you're using these clamps, you're going to have to be aware of what's going on when you're moving this around, and make sure you don't have anything to where it's going to move and hit those clamps. And again, when you home the machine, depending on where it is, you don't know that path exactly. So you're going to have to really watch that, or maybe even not clamp the material down until after you home it. But there are some things I'm going to have to get used to. you know, because it's a little bit fiddly to me, and I guess it's because I'm just not used to this being stationary. But you're going to have to raise the router up, you know, and you have just enough room. You can pull this off. It's held on with magnets, which work really good, by the way. So you're going to have to leave this off, change your bit, and again, you might also, just because this might be in the way, you know, it might be easier to kind of get the hose out of the way. I don't know. I'll just have to do it a few times and see. But we're going to write a program just to do a little carving on this piece of plywood here, and we'll be able to test the thing. I really think it's going to work really well. It's just you know, I'm not used to this being stationary and the way you have to do things to get it to work. So let me leave this off, and I'm going to go write a program real quick to carve back and forth on here a little bit. I have to make sure that I stay well within these inside of these clamps, because it will hit, and I don't know if it would break it or not. Maybe, well, I suspect it would, because, you know, it's not going to be able to fly off like this because you're going to have the router on down in there. So I'm sure it wouldn't take but one time to really bust this up. So I'm going to be very careful, and let me get a program written, and I'll bring you back and we'll check this thing out. Okay, I've got this all zeroed out. I've got it in the center of the material. I've got a little program that's just going to run some back and forth engraving, or actually I got a 1/4 inch end mill, so it's just going to cut down 2 passes, 1/8 of an inch per pass, and that should kick up lots of dust. And we'll just see how it goes. So it may get a little loud. I'm going to turn the shop back on and then start this thing up, and we'll see what happens. Okay, of course I'm using an upcut bit, and with this plywood it's going to bring the fuzzies up. But as I look at this material, in fact, let me just go ahead and loosen it up here and see if we can bring it out here. You can see there's very little dust that came off of there. So it did do a good job at sucking it out of there. You can see a little bit stuck here in the brushes. So just as I thought, it does work pretty well. It's you know, I've never seen any dust collection that's 100%. But the main thing is, if it can get you know, 90-95% of it, I'm a happy camper. And at least it will keep it contained too, because once you dump it out, it's all right here, and you can easily vacuum it up. But again, like I was pointing out earlier, I think if you're the type of person that likes to use the painter's tape and the CA glue method to hold material down, or maybe you screw stuff down in the corners, or maybe you have one of those fancy plastic nail guns where you shoot stuff into the spoil board. That would be ideal for using this, because again, this dust shoe does not go up and down. It's stationary. So, and you set it, in order for it to work effectively, you have to have the brushes really close to the top of this surface. So if you're using any kind of clamps or anything else, another thing I was thinking of, if you're cutting, and say you cut out, say you're cutting circles, and you cut out a circle and it tips on you and sticks up, or the bit catches it and it flips it up a little bit, and then this moves back across. You know, you don't have much before you're going to hit that and break it. Like I said, you can remove this, but you can see I have to, there's just barely enough room to get that off with the 15 millimeters that the Z-axis raises up at the end of the program here. So I think it's going to work well. It's going to take me a little bit to get used to it, and again, I'll probably stop using these clamps and just use some CA glue for any future projects that I do, because like I say, I think you're only going to get one shot at hitting a clamp or something with this. It's a sturdy plastic, but it's not all that sturdy, I don't think. If you hit one of those clamps, it's gonna break. Okay, so I think that's going to do it for this video. I think I'm going to have to spend a little time getting used to this. Like I said, it's way different than what I'm used to. I've always just made my own, and not used to not having the dust shoe itself go up and down. So something you're going to always have to keep in mind if you're trying to use some kind of clamps, because it's not going to be pretty if you swing it over there and hit one of the clamps. Even if you're just doing something like homing the machine, it's easy to hit the home button and then forget, start doing something else, and next thing you know, you hear a crack and it's run over a clamp here. So anyway, that's going to do it for this video. If you got anything out of this video, please leave me a thumbs up. And if you want to check out any of the great products over at NEMA Labs, maybe check out the MBX 5040, or they also have an well, I'm not sure if it's MBX. It's a 6040. I think it's got a different letters in front of it, but it's just a little bit wider than this one. So go to the NEMA Labs website. I have a link to that down below. And if you also are interested in maybe purchasing one of these and would like to help out the channel, you can use the Amazon affiliate links down below for the NEMA Labs products. So anyway, that's going to do it for this one. And until the next one, thank you very much for watching.